Yeah, that's
I
right.
thought Ted's truck was out here.
I thought it was too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Ted's truck, or some Uber trucks out back.
That's mine.
Oh, that's yours.
Okay.
That explains it.
There's much junk in the back seat. That's how you can tell.
I'll order the Thursday, May 28th meeting of the City of Old Town Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. First order of business is welcome and introductions. I think everybody knows, everybody's here from last time. Next is overview of the process to date and planning for next steps. Proposed survey questions.
Yes, I think I circulated, hopefully everybody's got a copy of them. I mailed them out last night. I know that was kind of last minute. But it was really just to give you an opportunity to kind of think through. Let me just give you some background as to why I did what I did. When we met last time, we talked about the various surveys that have been done already. One in 2011, one in 2013, the downtown survey, and then someone mentioned University of Maine, forestry, or at least water quality, something to do with the river. And I'm on that, but I haven't gotten any information about that. I found the person to speak with about it, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So I don't know what the content of that particular survey is. So based upon that and the conversation that we had last time, I went back in my files and also based upon the RFP, which talked about the downtown and Stillwater Avenue being the two big areas in the community that really we needed to think through for the future. I looked at some other surveys that I've worked with in the past and came up with a hybrid. These are example questions. I'm hoping that we can take some time to go through this survey instrument tonight to see which ones you think should stay, which ones should go, what alternatives you think ought to be included. The plan would be to use SurveyMonkey, so it'd be an electronic survey. We'd post it on Facebook and get it out on the website for people to get at who are comfortable using electronic mechanisms. But then we'd have to talk about getting it out there in hard copy form to the people that we know may not wish to use a computer. And then once we have those surveys back, it's going to be important to the results to get that information entered into SurveyMonkey. So there's some work involved that I will need your help in assisting. So with that said, this would be designed to get at how people feel about what's going on Stillwater Avenue, particularly today, and whether or not they have an appetite for a change in the direction there. And if you noticed, walking down through, it talks about all different modes of transportation to help make this community a little bit more walkable, a little bit more bicycle-friendly, trying to get at questions about how safe people feel at intersections, whether they're driving or walking or otherwise. And then really just getting a sense of, the variety of questions, some of which we talked about last time, but mostly focused on what is the character of the future development that you want to see, particularly on Stillwater. Do you want it to look more like a downtown, or do you want it to continue to be more of a strip center? Tried to introduce some questions about tension between Old Town permanent residents and the less permanent residents that you sometimes have here, just to get a feel for whether or not that's an issue. And then, of course, at the end, just trying to figure out who's actually answering these questions. Are they owners? Are they renters? Are they young? Are they older, male or female? So with that, I know
Can
Alan.
I ask some questions or
yes,
start?
Absolutely.
I'm a big mouth, I guess, or something. The first bunch of questions that you have here, part one, their worsens, stay the same, or improved. Okay, so I don't know if that's relative capture or not, because I would wrestle with what means
And it
worse or whatever.
means- Right.
But it says during the time you lived here, during the time you lived here. It never captures anywhere how long you've lived here. Would it be important to have something like, are you a native here, or have you been here 2 years, or you've been here 15 years, or does that
Yes.
matter?
Yes, it
Because I think
does.
that's what you're implying, but I don't see it here.
Yep. I think,
Okay.
Could you add that down?
could add that to part 4.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
How long?
I appreciate that we've identified the corridor of Stillwater Avenue and the downtown, but should we have some place in here where there can also be an added, what somebody else might feel might be some development areas? Because, for instance, the next exciting exit up, a lot
Right.
of people don't even realize it's there, but there's a lot of potential down that.
Yes.
Also coming from Orono itself, where the Mystery Town Line is there in Orono, coming from the university, people see that coming in because we have a major industry right there, the paper mill, which is it's not reflected here.
Right.
I know that the university's trying to do research there, and plus we're trying to revive it and so forth. That's another gateway into this community I think might be important to look at. And then when I look at part 2, I have very serious, somewhat serious, not serious. I know what you're trying to prioritize whether these are important items, so if I don't think it's serious yet, I don't have any other words. It's all use the word serious, so I might look at it, well, it's not really that serious, so I'd hit not serious, right?
Yeah.
But you're trying to quantify a preference, I think, on addressing some of these kinds of issues.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to
should we-
understand how people, whether or not they weigh a particular issue in a,
Right.
you know.
But I'm just wondering if we use a different adjective than
Okay.
serious. I don't
Sure.
know if that would give us a little bit more feedback, because again, it might all be hit non-serious. And then when I see things like traffic speeding, traffic injection, is that where? If you
Yeah.
try to go up Stillwater Avenue,
Yep.
anytime from 7 o'clock in the morning, it's okay, but then you get to 7:30 to 9 o'clock.
Right.
Forget it.
Right.
If you try to come the opposite direction, approximately 2:30 on, it is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I am a person at the university. I cannot physically turn from 2 o'clock on. I cannot turn at the other entrance of the university on the Orono side. I cannot turn left to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's an Orono problem. But then if I go the opposite direction, I am backed up all the way along College Avenue
Right.
at a dangerous light,
Right.
and then I come down, and now there's a pinch point somewhere, I don't know where it is, but I have noticed that the traffic is stacking up
Yep.
all the way back to almost Governor's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it's doing that. Something's holding it back, and we have widened it.
Right.
So
Yes,
not,
but you also have that bridge that narrows it and slows you
no,
down.
but I'm talking
other-
about going to Old
The-
Town.
The in-town
Going
end.
to Old Town.
They go right across the bridge into Milford. And
Right.
it's,
Yeah. That's that's in the morning.
No, coming.
Oh, at nighttime too, yeah.
It comes right down. to
Right.
it, so,
There's a lot of, you get the traffic from the Bradley Road.
Right.
Because I go to Callis, and in the morning when
Yeah.
it's easy to get on there, but you can see the cars all lined
Yeah,
up. Getting
yeah.
off Bradley Road to do that whole thing
Right.
all the way
Going
down
through.
through.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you say traffic congestion and delay, I don't know if I'm inferring Stillwater Avenue or other places,
Right.
because that is something that's not right.
Yep.
Something's not right with the light down here. Those of us that live here,
At
there's something.
college?
Right here.
Oh, right here. Got it.
There's
Yep.
something's not right, and it's pinching a lot of things that reflect backwards. I'm not really sure, but I don't know if people would identify that.
Okay.
Traffic cut through residential areas, I don't know what I would say, because Brunswick Street is another corridor that takes people out, but that looks like it looks like a residential area, but that is a cut through anyway, so I don't know if that would mislead there too, I'm not sure. Because that's a horrendous place to get out of too.
Right.
I don't know. And then when we look at the safety parts here, pedestrian and bicycle, I'm not sure. I would hate to have us have flashing lights and stuff like I'm starting to see in Orno, where every time you stand at the crosswalk, now these big lights come on.
Right, right.
And then if you're over 55 and you stop at this little light here and the light changes, you better have a nice pace because it changes quickly for the pedestrian light.
Mhm.
I happen to be able to still make it, but.
I think it's gonna cross pretty quickly, and I'm over 55.
Right.
I'll be very careful what you say.
No, well, I'm in the bracket too, Linda, but I'm just making a point that, you know, we have an elderly population downtown, and I'm
Well,
not sure
but
if that
if you're
reflects
pushing
it.
a stroller, or if you're
Or
walking
anything.
a toddler,
Right,
or,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not enough
Do you
time.
think if
Oh,
we,
got hit up.
Yeah,
if we broke these down into multiple, kind of keep the same language, but identify Stillwater and College Avenue
I think so,
Main
because,
and center.
because it kind of,
for
it
blocks of
kind
them?
of gets me confused as to, am I talking about Stillwater Avenue or am I talking about
Yeah.
other things?
Yeah,
Um,
The other thing you could do is put another column and say, identify what area that you're speaking of. And then if they have.
so have them say,
Have
Yeah.
them say, center and.
There you go.
Right.
Because you don't wanna add a
Right.
lot more questions to this. This
Exactly.
is already lengthy.
Correct.
And people are gonna look at this going,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna bother with it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That does
Wonder,
it.
we all recognize this, you know, Center Street and the traffic in the morning, commuting traffic.
yeah, we don't
is
have to
an issue.
ask anybody
Maybe
on
we
that,
don't
do
need
we?
to do it.
You know, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe just say, hey, where else is it a problem? Acknowledge
Right.
that it is a problem.
Yeah.
That's
And
what a
say,
question in
where
that
else?
respect, yeah.
That's a really good way to do it, I think. Just say that where we know there's a problem. And then you capture the other information.
right, so
Yeah.
so just to help me out, where we know there's a problem is on Center Street. Is that only in the morning?
No, in the.
No, in the evening too.
Evening.
Both coming.
Oh.
2:30, yeah,
Okay.
it's a pinch point for some reason.
And I know Stillwater, certainly.
But Stillwater has improved
Yes,
since the third lane.
yes,
I mean,
exactly.
and that's some of the things that, you know, I know we need to concentrate on that corridor only because we know that's,
It's
huge-
attractive
it's
from a,
huge.
from a
Yeah,
development
right.
perspective,
But
yep.
maybe we need to look at the fact that maybe we have too many questions about Stillwater after
Mm.
we're in.
Yeah,
And the other thing is, shouldn't we be saying, instead of UMO, shouldn't we be saying University of Maine?
yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Or UMaine.
Right, right.
Several places that's, you get
Yeah.
UMO. so.
Yep,
Yeah, they don't like that
No,
anymore.
they don't like that.
55.
Yeah, right.
I know.
And then on the second page, there was a few questions that, I don't want to be sensitive, but I'm on the planning board, so. But it says, what is it? We're losing the small city feel that we used to have, okay? And then Old Town does an excellent job managing growth, and then state needs to take a stronger role in the growth. And then state should never interfere with decision growth. Property owners have an inherent right to use the land as they see fit. And a couple things like that, and I'm wondering, what are we trying to bring out?
Yeah. What I'm trying to understand here is the appetite of the residents for, you know, different package of regulation. Are they happy with the way things are?
Mhm.
Or are they looking for something different? And that's why the questions are, in many respects, they sound repetitive,
Mhm.
but they're trying to get at layers
Right, okay.
of, you know, what are really what are they standing up for? Because sometimes a yes or no question, or even one of these questions,
Right.
isn't gonna get you deep enough.
Okay.
So that's the concept behind it. I mean, I'm certainly open to, I mean, this is your survey, so we'll do whatever it is that you want to do, but I just wanted to give you that background.
Okay. Because
Because
one
this is
hot
attitude
question on
And
here
values.
is businesses themselves, not government regulations, should determine the best locations for development in Old Town. And one of the controversial items we had was, where does one grow marijuana and sell it?
Sure.
And we've got a regulation on that, but I would hate to have these
Right.
kinds of things undermine some of that.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
So, yeah, what I need from you is You know, I mean, this is helpful, but I've got to go back to the drawing board.
Oh, sure, sure,
And
sure.
oh, by the way,
Right.
my thought originally in the scope was to do the survey before summer. Well, we're here. We
Yeah.
can't do it in the summer. So the
Sure.
idea now is to postpone it until September.
Sure.
And, you know, use the whole month of September.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some time to work out the details, but, you know, we can cut this back, we can,
Then the last 3 or 4 questions on the third page. The tension between permanent residents and student population, I don't know if it should, and I understand what we're trying to say. Just wondering, should we word that somewhat differently? And then the next one, I don't have time to participate in community civic matters. I wish I could volunteer in committees. And I'm wondering,
yeah.
how do we, I think I know what we're trying to ask, but I'm wondering, what are we trying to ask?
Right. Right, that comes from the survey that was done in 2013.
Okay.
Where people were asked whether or not they participate.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there are it appeared from that survey, and it was a good number of responses. It appeared that people don't use the library, people don't come to City Hall to
Right.
get
That's true.
involved in community matters. And I was trying to figure out, you know, is there a way that we can, you know, is there a way for us to understand why? And maybe this is to locking them in, I don't have time, for
Yeah.
example.
I was actually amazed to find out, because I do travel in a couple circles where there's a lot of elderly population doing things, like at the bingo on Monday nights, for instance. And it's surprising how many people actually watch the television for the public meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see them sitting in the chairs, but they're
Right.
watching it on the meeting.
Right.
And I don't know, should we ask that kind of thing?
Right, right. As an alternative.
Because I do believe that they're engaged but not engaged.
Yeah, so maybe it's just a different type of question.
Correct,
It's
yeah.
more of a,
And I think
know-
Carol or maybe Linda made comments the last time about the website we have and the Facebooking and all that stuff in the
Right.
city. And I believe a lot of people look at that too, but they're not sitting in the chairs.
Right.
So are we trying to find out if they want to sit in the chairs or if they using?
We want to know I think we want to know how much they know about what's going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think they do know.
Yeah,
I just don't know how we would capture that. That's all
right,
I'm asking.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's key, and almost any industry is, you know, taking people from that passive
Mhm.
consumption to engagement.
Right.
And I think that, you know, the numbers are always gonna be kind of low. I do think, though, it's incumbent on people who are trying to communicate a message to do it in as many platforms as
Right.
possible. And I
Mhm.
think that's really what you're hitting at. And also questions, your comments about the questions are spot on, and definitely I feel like adding some metrics, maybe some more
Yeah.
objective rather than subjective
Mhm,
questions to help,
mhm.
you know, just measure that. But definitely, you know, this gives you the information that you need.
Definitely.
You were talking about doing interviews at old folks' homes and getting out there in person and, you know,
Yeah.
social media, all the platforms. all
Right.
the
I mean, I
platforms.
think that's something that if the committee is interested in doing and can get us to get out to the elderly, then that would be fantastic. We don't have the budget or the
Right,
time
right,
to
right.
do that. So we're going to need some help
Mhm.
if you want to get at that population.
I think we can do things like write you know, a press release to the Penobscot Times and talk about that. Maybe we can get some elderly
Right.
volunteers or from that community. I mean,
Exactly.
those folks are very engaged voters and civically engaged. I don't think it would be too difficult to get them to
Right.
speak to their own people. Maybe we can find a point person
Right.
at an old folks' home, something,
Right.
something.
Yep, and maybe on that question, what we do is we say, you know, how are you engaged? Or how do you learn about community matters? I read the newspaper, I look at Facebook, I go to the website, I watch the television, I go to meetings.
All right.
So give them, check all of the above, or, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other reactions or thoughts?
So you're replacing those last two questions with a check all the above type of thing?
Yeah, I would take it right out of that part and create a different part.
Another
In
section.
the tension one, you're going to rephrase.
Yeah, any thoughts about that?
Well, I was wondering, is that meant to kind of look at maybe how many people are transient population and how many are stable population here, for instance, or?
Well, some
Because
of,
that would be probably on the first page, under this section here, wouldn't it be quality of housing, or the rental properties are sufficient, or, I mean, is that something we want to know about in our comprehensive plan? Because there's a lot of student housing that
Yeah.
is blowing up in Orono,
mhm.
and I think that there will be avenues where people will want to find better transit housing like that.
Mhm.
I mean, is that
Yeah.
something that would translate into this second part at all, or, because this one's looking at,
Yes.
I think, identifying problems, if you will.
Yes.
And you had other there, and you had question marks, and I don't know if those are some other hot ticket items, because
Yeah.
we're trying to define ourselves as a community, and one thing is, are we a supplemental community to Orono for that population, or are we?
Right, something else.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm aware of in other communities that host a university is
Mhm.
that there can sometimes be a lot of tension, and maybe the tension is greater in an Orono
Right,
than it is in Old Town.
correct.
So, getting at that housing question, which we have a lot of data about housing, but it's not finding out how people feel about the housing.
Right.
And
So are we
that's-
trying to find out
could-
about the quality of the housing, or are we trying to find out about the neighbor relations? Because we've got
Both.
a lot of, how do I want to say this, Section 8 housing that
Uh-huh.
also has kind of caused some things in some
Mhm.
parts of the city too. And that's, I don't know if that would be answered under that question about the
Right.
tension.
Yeah, why don't we take that question about
'Cause it says
tension
student
right out?
population.
Yeah, but take the word student out, because you're
Yeah.
right, there is
Yeah.
probably more tension,
In 2 or 3 of the hot areas of town, I think,
yeah,
based on those kind of.
yeah. Even police calls and stuff like we've been
Mhm.
discussing in the council, that seems to be the hot spot as to if the students aren't here, or even if the students are here, those are
Those are definitely hot
Definitely
areas.
hot
yeah.
areas.
Mhm.
Particular ones.
particular, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
gotta think
students,
about
you
how to
put-
get at that.
The rental
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
renters versus permanent residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, if that's what we're trying to
yeah,
capture.
because we just don't want to say the students, because there's a
Right.
lot of other rental housing in Old.
Correct, right.
You might want to, under your demographic information, get, are you
A renter or a
university student?
Oh, okay.
She has.
Yeah, that she
I
does.
do have
rent.
rent or own, yeah.
How long have you lived in?
And we've just added, how long have you lived?
Here.
And,
Longer, please.
The point about housing is real important because
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
changes going on in Orono. But I hear people talk about the retail, selection of retail businesses. I don't buy anything, so I'm not the guy to tell you what they want to buy. But it seems like clothing stores
Yeah.
are absent, and so
Yeah.
when they talk about developing something in Old Town, gee, I wish they'd bring in a Rennie's, you know. And so maybe there's a question on there about what type of businesses, like retail business and.
yeah, I think that was actually covered in the downtown
Oh, was it?
survey,
Okay.
so I really
Stand
don't
corrected.
want
Good.
to repeat that.
Yeah. No, if you've already
And
got
Rennie's
the
was a big one.
information.
Yeah.
Good.
So.
Rennie's might come.
Yeah.
Christmas
know.
will.
Maybe this is the wrong audience for this, but you know what's a trend in downtowns is this idea of a co-space.
Yeah?
Where they take
Oh,
even,
yeah.
like an empty office, and maybe the city works out a deal where that empty office space is utilized to qualifying entrepreneurs. There's internet, there's electricity, it's open during business hours and maybe like more, it's almost like a little cafe oriented. Folks can come in and
Right.
it's a networking site.
Right.
It's like a generator.
Exactly, yeah, it's a really good idea, because you can call up and register the time. You know, it could be somebody like me, who is a consultant, but I have to do work in a particular community one day.
You know, it could work in
And
a
I can rent.
revolving way. Like, it wouldn't have to be a fixed location. Maybe there could be like relationships developed with places where we know there's empty available space.
Right.
I don't know. It's just something to throw out.
Right, so are you suggesting that we put a question about something like that in here, or?
Something, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if this is the right audience to bring that up. I just,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So here's what I need from you, because, again, this is gonna be a fair amount of work if we do this way, and I've got at least some of the changes that we've talked about here. Are there any that you think ought to come out altogether?
Well, I think we should go back to, are we gonna do this on a corridor basis?
On a
We got
what?
Corridor, the Stillwater
Yeah.
Avenue, Center Street.
Yep,
We're
it's a
gonna
good
do it on
question.
Gilman Falls, we're gonna do it on South Main Street, because there's really different
Mm-hmm.
issues with all those 3 or 4 areas, and we lump them all together, I'm not sure we're gonna get,
Right,
a lot of the traffic on Stillwater and Center Street comes from people from out of town, they're just passing through
Mhm.
on
That's right.
commuters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go straight through,
They go straight through.
both ways.
Park Street is, and South Main Street is outrageous now with that housing down there. I didn't realize how bad it was. A relative of mine was telling me how terrible it was. And I bicycle some, so I biked over there to check it out. It was terrible.
So it is.
Yeah, it is.
You're lucky to be alive.
Yeah,
On
you
the
said
bicycle.
making that left.
That left
yeah.
turn is impossible.
I get off the bike and I'm like,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to walk across the street. It's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, it's tough.
so, Tim, that was a question to the rest of the committee, how?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so how do you want to handle that? Do you want it to be broader? Because it's really very much focused on downtown and Stillwater right now, mostly Stillwater. I've already heard Phil talk about, you know, the congestion issue, understanding that that has application in other parts of the community as well, and we can fix that question. Because if we open it up to other areas, it'll change the flavor of this quite a bit.
Right. What have you found as being the ideal length of one of these things? Because obviously we don't want to go longer,
Right.
but,
If it takes somebody more than 10 minutes,
Then they
forget
won't.
it.
Okay.
So that's, you know, and I think this is right on the edge
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say your 3 pages are the limit. right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if you're going to add something,
You gotta take
You gotta
something
take
out.
something
you're
out.
going to have to take something out.
Yeah.
So the focus, should we change the focus to some other areas or
Or expand it to include other areas.
expand it? So-
Or do you ask the same questions, but in your demographic section, sort of put a map or zones within Old Town and say, where do you reside? Are you in the downtown area? Are you south of
Mm-hmm.
such and such a road or something? Maybe that gets too
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, I'm asking them what street or road they live on,
Well, that's
on the
a-
last page,
I'm wondering
so.
if we shouldn't ask a question as to, do you like your neighborhood? I mean, talk about, if you're looking at the areas of the city where I live, which is out a ways, do I like where I'm living? Do I have a problem with that area? I mean,
Yeah, and again, that's a question that was asked
in the downtown one?
in, nope, the one in 2013, and people generally felt really good
Yeah.
about their neighborhood. Right.
You know, on the second page, you have several questions that talk about appearance and
Yeah.
what it looks like, and I'm not sure why you have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 questions about, could it be 2?
Mm-hmm. Got two you prefer?
No.
Okay.
You know,
I think one is, and I don't know which ones you're talking about, Alan, but one that I think should be there, and I know it's gonna probably be controversial. Stillwater Avenue is the best place for development that will increase the tax base in Old Town. Because I know we're working with the downtown area as well, but there's pros and cons with that as well.
Sure.
So I think that's, but the next one, the appearance of Stillwater Avenue, is that the one you're talking about?
Well, I'm proud of the way Old Town looks as you arrive from I-95 Bannock Road. I worry about the large portion of Stillwater Avenue becoming ugly. Stillwater Avenue is the best place for the appearance of Stillwater Avenue. So there's several about the appearance,
Right.
in my opinion. That's,
Mhm.
seems like maybe two would be, and then maybe take out two.
And then there's another one about managing growth and related traffic along Stillwater Avenue.
That one there, they're not gonna have any say, because 90% of Stillwater Avenue is within the compact zone, so.
Right.
Other than if a traffic study needs to be done. for-
Right,
for
if it's a
large
traffic movement
development,
permit,
Yeah, for a
right.
movement permit,
Yeah,
but
we can take that one out.
What did you say,
Which one
Dave?
was it that you
I
said
don't
that?
know if I understood what you said, something about a compact zone, or,
it's within the compact zone.
what does that mean? I don't.
It's under city control.
Even though it's a state highway, it's under city control.
Oh.
The state highway, yeah.
But which one was it you said to take out?
The state needs to take a stronger role, and the state should never intervene.
Correct.
Those,
That one,
those
okay, good,
probably, those two in a row, fourth and fifth from the bottom.
But then the next one opposite, Old Town does an excellent job managing growth and related traffic along Stillwater Avenue, which also should be grouped with the ones up above about Stillwater Avenue.
Right.
So our current comprehensive plan, we push Stillwater Avenue as being the area that we want growth.
It's where we have the infrastructure, where their potential for available land based on, hopefully, cooperation with the university.
I think it's a logical place for you to grow. The question is how you want it to grow. You know, and it's not even so much the kinds of business activities, but do you want it to grow in a way that is more like the downtown so that people can walk to places, they don't have to drive everywhere, that it's more mixed use than, you know, getting in your car, driving from one driveway to another, and things like that.
When Dave White and I worked on the rezoning of Stillwater Avenue, we weighed out the depth that we would need and envisioned a parallel road to get you off Stillwater that would go down, that you could have shops on both sides. So that may
I see, yeah, yeah.
That may accommodate both, have some parking, and then you could park
Right.
and walk to those shops, and then
Right.
you get back onto Stillwater Avenue and continue on, but
Right,
kind of what we looked at.
yeah.
Wasn't there an article, maybe it was in the paper recently, about Old Town being the third location for kayak vacations or
Yeah.
something like that? Is that canoe, or is that something that we need to address a recreational aspect here too, or is that in something else?
I don't think that it was specifically addressed in that way in the downtown. I think
Okay.
the downtown survey looked at broader
Okay.
questions. It didn't focus on
Right.
that particular
Yeah.
recreational economic opportunity.
Filled out the university one, though, and it did.
And there was a
Talk
question
about
about recreation in the downtown too, because a lot of people wanted, I don't know if it's actually in the survey, but a lot of people said they wanted more recreational area, which I'm not sure that, we in fact talked about that today at the downtown meeting. Old Town does have a lot of recreational space.
So maybe the thing to do is to include a question that suggests that because Old Town is named as the third blah, 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 best paddling place in the country, or whatever the title is, do you envision, or do you prefer, would you like to see more economic investment made to improve the infrastructure for that kind, or more events scheduled around that kind of let me think about
That's
that.
a good question. I mean, I'm the one that brought that to light. I saw the article on Facebook. I think it actually was a share from the Penobscot Nation because they're holding that race, and so they're involved in the Whitewater community. And I just thought it was great news for the city, you know, we could capitalize on that. What I think, and I'm the new person on the block, so I, you know, want to be here as an asset, not to drag you down my rabbit hole, but I feel that, you know, Bangor was just determined to be the Maine's youngest city, not Portland. It's got an economic growth base there. We're next to University of Maine at Orono. You know, we have our own flavor here. We're closer to the woods here, and we have this whitewater, you know, thing. I was at a meeting in Bradley about a year ago with Leonard's Mills, and they were talking about the dam opening and saying that there were businesses that were eyeballing how the flows would, you know, result in what that would look like for that community. And so, you know, there is an opportunity to capitalize on that. I think, you know, we're just this far from, you know, from university, from Bangor. We're, you know, really a gateway to Katahdin and all of that.
I think
Yep.
you bring up an interesting point about the canoe race and whatnot, and I think that might be something that might be of value to share with this committee. I don't know, is anybody from the city working with, I guess Penn and Old Town Canoe are probably pretty heavily involved in that.
Yes.
If somebody can talk
Yeah.
about what route they're gonna be using, where they're gonna be parking, where they're gonna be launching.
Yeah.
They are working, that committee is working with Old Town to, the city, in order to get all those answers to the questions you just asked.
Yeah.
Is that something that we could get at this committee? I think that would be a fairly important recreation thing for us to consider.
I think it's fabulous. I mean, people will travel to not only participate, but, you know, and they're promoting it as the traditional route. And I believe it starts, you know, from Indian Island and ends at the Eddington Dam. So it would go right past Old Town, you know, Center.
Okay, so
and
they're gonna have to have a
French
portage around
Island.
Milford.
Yes.
Oh, I
there's-
don't know about that.
I
I
think
think they're
there's
gonna
two
race right through
portages,
it.
are there?
Is it two
I
portages?
I
Not
think there's
over
two
the dam,
portages that.
In Mil,
that-
right,
Oh,
right.
on
So
the-
you're right, they have to be
They're
launching in
launching
Old
at
Town.
Indian Island.
Right, got
That's right.
you, sorry.
They're launching from the
Right up
city
here,
park.
right, City Park,
City
City Park,
Park,
okay.
That would make sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be an annual event
They're
there,
good, they're
Yes.
trying to make it an annual
so
event,
it's
yeah.
going to be a big thing.
I believe they want to grow
Build and
on
build.
it, yeah.
Kind of like the folk festival, be here for 3 years,
But you
is
know,
what
we-
I'm understanding, and then they'll have another.
Exactly, and you know, you're right, this is, the infrastructure for establishing Old Town as like a, you know, a green place to play is already here. The trails, the bike
Mhm.
trails for Orono are rich, and the bike community is well developed. They have great trails, you know, it, just really like a outdoor recreation center away, really establishing the town.
So how does that sound to others about trying to position Old Town as an outdoor recreation, you know, area? It being known for that?
Would that be appropriate to ask in this kind of questionnaire then?
It could.
I would think you'd have that more as a section in the comprehensive plan and include Pushaw,
That's right.
the river.
Sure.
All of those things in,
Right.
somewhere in the comprehensive plan as a subject rather than try to get too specific in this here, because the canoe race will be gone by the time we get to this, for the first one anyway. It's gonna be an annual event, so I think that may come as a group in the recreation thing rather
Right.
than in this. service.
Well, we're definitely going to have a whole section in the comprehensive plan that speaks to all the different recreation assets
Right.
that are here for the people who live here and for the people who visit here.
And I think then in that section you say, what's the future of this? And that's when you get into expanding on the
Exactly.
river.
Right.
and-
Yeah, it seems to me that it's an opportunity, this canoe, and of course, you know, with Old Town Canoe being here, it's an opportunity to expand your economic development strategy to really focus people on that asset that you have here. And instead of having people just come for the race or the festival, they come all the time, whenever the water's running. So,
And I think you want to do that as not just the city, but you want to kind of tap into those things that are around you too. Arundel's not in Old Town, part of it is, you know, you pick up on those things in that
Okay.
subgroup in that,
Yeah.
in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I'm thinking Old Town must have one of the largest open spaces in
Yes.
Maine with the university.
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
Arundel and the other parts.
Absolutely.
It must be, so it must be,
A
it would be a
National
natural.
Wildlife Refuge just around the corner, and
That's right.
Stud Mill Road is a gateway to, the woods, and
That's right.
You couldn't buy better exposure than being in that magazine, being the third best.
it is
Yeah.
fabulous, it's fabulous. I
So-
would like to write a press release to like the Bangor Daily News and everybody and let them know, because I don't know how many people actually know that, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I feel like I should speak to somebody in the city about that, though, like Ron Harriman, should I speak to?
Either Ron or Bill.
Yeah, and just make sure that it's
They
on
did
them.
that, they talked about that today, too.
Did they? That's
Yeah,
fabulous.
they did in our downtown meeting today.
Great.
I can imagine people from away coming and saying, I wanna go experience this, and they're gonna
Right.
come to town, and they're gonna say, where do we start this?
Right.
Most of us gonna say, what are you talking about?
Right, right.
They are, Bill and Ron are working with Scott Phillips and the Nation on the race.
Oh, good.
We should capitalize on it on
Yeah.
a full-time
Right.
basis.
And they have events, the city has events planned in the park at the same time as the race, so they, they are working on it, so,
That's great, I
Mhm.
think it's great.
yeah, it is good. It's
When is it, do we know?
July 23rd, I want to say, something
Or
like that.
thereabouts?
Right about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
That week. It's,
right about there, yep.
good.
Are there any more comments right now on the survey? All right. Thank you. Here's what I'm going to do. This actually makes for a good segue, because the plan is, at this point, to not have any more meetings until September. But I don't think that's a good idea based on this. I need this survey to be a little bit more solid before summer, before I send you home for the summer. And so I'm wondering how you feel about my coming back at the end of June with a revision based upon the comments that I've heard. And then we'll do the real refinements over the summer and get it ready to launch in September when students come back and so on. There's not just that, but there'll be other things that I would add to the agenda at the end of June. I know it's one more time for you to be out. It is in my budget, so I feel comfortable with being able to come back for that. So we can get back to that in a few minutes, but I wanted to put that out there now to have you be thinking about it. So the next thing on the agenda is committee assignments, but I'm going to skip that and go to the 2.5-day event, which I think I did email you yesterday. But I didn't bring copies. Oh, I haven't. I think I do. Maybe not. I'm not that good.
Neither am I. Why am I not?
I thought I did. I know I did. Absolutely.
Well, I came in late.
Yep, I do have it. I'll give you this back. Okay, so this 2.5-day event, the first thing I noticed after we changed the dates last time is that my partner is unavailable for one of those days. So I need to ask you to look at calendars and see whether or not we can shift a day forward that same week. So we'd be looking at September the 28th, which is a Monday, as well as the 29th and 30th, or shift to the following week with a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the way this would work would be an evening the first day, and then all the evenings of the 3 days would be open to the public. The 2 days we would be setting up to have conversations with opinion leaders,
business people. We'll figure out the subjects based upon who it is you want us to bring in to those days. But it's to really dig deeper and to really understand where this community wants to be headed with its comprehensive plan. So, you know, unfortunately, I thought we were set with the 29th, 30th, and October 1st, but October 1st is out for my partner. So, and I really need to have her be here to be part of that. So, how do you feel about the 28th that week? That actually works best for the other group. Wright Pierce is going to be here also. There is a little bug flying around my nose. And I'm on TV. So I don't know if there are other public meetings on a Monday night.
First Monday, we have our council meetings.
Okay, so this is the last Monday, the 28th. Would that
be better,
work?
wouldn't
That would work? That would work best for us.
For the council, it would.
Yeah, that's the end of, it's
It's
the last 3 days of,
September.
Yeah, last 3 days of September.
And would that also work because the weekend before is Riverfest? Would that be the time to maybe have a booth or something so people would turn out?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's actually on
Yeah,
the
put
Friday and
posters up
Saturday
Of
of
like
the
the
weekend
20
before that, immediate weekend just before that.
26th and 27th?
Yes. So, could even have a booth if you wanted to have passersby fill out your questionnaire.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a great idea.
yeah.
okay. This is for Old Town citizens, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Riverfest is not just for Old Town citizens.
True, but we could have an
But-
informational booth
Yeah.
to tell about it so that
Okay.
the Old Town citizens at least would see it, I hope. Yeah.
And if they're participating in an Old Town event, would we want input from them?
We could
If
ask.
they're
yeah,
willing to.
Fair
Hmm.
enough. We could ask them, are you from Old Town? And maybe
Right.
have
Well, it's
another
gonna be
one
right
for
on, it's gonna be
out-of-towners.
on the very
Right.
last,
Page.
page anyway, as far as where they're living and whatnot, but.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't hurt for you to get their responses. You're just not going to weigh them as heavily because they're not residents here. But they may give you some insight
Mhm.
that you hadn't thought of.
Yeah. Because they probably patronize the businesses, commute through here, go to the library, the schools, the Y. So even though they're not citizens of Old Town, I think it might be
using our
valuable.
resources, how many times we talked about that, you know?
And the great majority of them are from the greater Old Town area.
Right,
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm. Which is, we care about what they think too, because like you say, they patronize our businesses and our.
Right. So the 28th is okay. 28th, 29th, and 30th. That's what we'll go with.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
I think the 28th might be bad for me, because I think that's our open house at school, but because I don't have my annual calendar with me, but, I mean, I'm just one person, so it's no big deal.
Well, for the opening night, what we would do, and I guess let's walk through this, and then we can talk about what would happen on the first night anyway. We talked last time about doing it at the library, and what we want to make sure is that it's got, and I meant to try to go see the library today, but didn't get to it. Just to have a large open space where we can display maps and have people walk around at different tables to ask questions, provide input about what they're seeing on a map, what the summary information is, our inventories that we would be pulling together over the summer, and in a very simple format so that people can take a quick look and see what's going on and give us their feedback on it.
The space at the library is at least as big as this with no
With nothing in the
obstacle.
way, yeah,
Is it
great.
bigger? Is it- I'm
It may be a
especially-
little
I
bit
think it's
bigger.
bigger.
But-
little bit
yeah,
bigger.
But that is one thing we would want to check, that they don't have any big event planned any of those 3 nights if we decided.
I'll check with Cindy.
Okay, that would be great. And then part of the question is, if we use the library, can we leave things there for the course of the 3 days?
That's another thing.
So
because-
that we don't have to take things down and put them back up and take them down, put them back up.
And those are evenings only, or
Well,
the
we
full-
would be,
It's gonna be tough with that
I
whole
guess,
thing.
if we're gonna be setting up there and we're gonna be at least 2 nights there, I would hope that we could set up in one place
and stay for those 3 days?
and stay for those 3 days. It would only be the evenings that would be the general public coming in. During the day, I need a space that has a conference room where I can meet with business people or folks who, you know, are interested in economic development and recreation and, you know, whatever the various topics are.
All right.
So.
So we're gonna set up 28th, 29th, and 30th, and it's gonna stay there until it leaves the night of the 30th.
Yep,
Then we could use the council chambers during the day.
perfect.
Or she may say it's fine to meet up there, but
Okay.
And that would work there.
Where else could we go if that doesn't work out?
What about the high school?
are they gonna be back?
In the evening?
No, that would be the evening, but they'd have to take things down.
We'd have to
We
take,
wouldn't be able to
I mean,
fix
it's
that.
not, you know, it's not, it's doable. We can take things down, but it certainly would be
It's a lot of-
easier for us. Yeah.
With the recreation building in Stillwater, a lot of people might think that's out of the way, so that might discourage some people.
Mhm.
I don't know if Kevin, he'll
Yeah,
have
that's
be-
evening, I mean, they do a lot of stuff
Carol?
in the evening.
He'll be deep into his,
Would the
well,
museum
let
be big
me
enough?
see about the
Focus on the
library.
library.
Yep.
And
We
where
move
would
stuff
it be
around.
hard to put things up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the library is the best place if that
Yeah,
works out.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think would be a good start time for us? I'm assuming people generally would come to this and they'd probably want to stop on their way home from work, or maybe some of them would go home first and then come in. But
Is it a walkthrough or a presentation?
there'd be no presentation the first night or the second night, but the third night there would be.
So the first 2 nights, kind of like an open house type thing?
Exactly,
So they could
exactly.
come, it will run from 5 to 8, but no one will probably stay there for 3.
Correct,
Okay.
right. It's not expected for them to, they would come and take half an hour to walk through and see everything, provide comment, and then they can walk away. And the third night, we would do a presentation based on everything that we've collected up to that point and set a draft vision for the community based upon what we've heard.
Well, I think the third night, it should be like 6 o'clock, because people are gonna need to
Yeah.
get there, so if you're gonna have a presentation, I don't think you
Six-
start that
six
before
to
6.
nine?
Yeah.
So
No, I think
five.
9's too late.
Yeah,
I think
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
That give you enough time for your presentation?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Our presentation isn't going to be that long. I mean, God, if we're talking for more than a half an hour, that's a problem. We should really try to keep that short and then just allow for discussion and reaction.
Mhm.
So I think,
Besides, if you, any that goes for 3 hours is,
Oh,
you
yeah.
lose, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So open house, first 2 nights, 5 to 8, but 6 to 8 the last night, with no more than a half-hour presentation. We'll do 20 minutes if we can. Okay. Another question is, you know, sometimes getting people to meetings, it's helpful to have refreshments.
Mhm.
So it's not in our budget to provide the refreshments. We had talked to the city maybe about providing some, but it's possible other communities have gotten sponsorships for that, where, you know, Hannaford or other businesses have donated the refreshments. And I suggest, you know, water, coffee, tea, just snacks for people to munch on. So if that's something you want to move forward, I think, you know, that would be helpful if maybe there's a small committee that could help work on that, because it's not something that we can, from a distance, be responsible for pulling together.
Rennie would donate some donuts, wouldn't he?
I'm just gonna
I'll
keep
see if we
walking
can-
down through this, and then we can ask questions as we go. Advertising and invitations, we'll be developing the posters and the letters of invitation. We'll post them to the web, the Facebook page, and then we're gonna ask you all to help with posting these posters around town, to let people know this is happening. And you need to be thinking about where you want to put them. I'm suggesting the library, obviously, City Hall, schools, Hannaford, restaurants, places where people gather. And you know those better than I, so, and we don't have to make that decision tonight, but, you want to be thinking about that. And then who will do that? It's a quick afternoon's kind of work for one person, or you can split them up. Okay, so day one, the open house.
Involve maybe a high school class or something like that?
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
that idea, like the government class or an advanced placement class.
Yeah.
Let them learn from this process.
Yeah, if someone is willing to contact the school and ask them if the class would be interested in putting those out, that would be wonderful. That would be great.
Another thing, the schools, don't they put out like newsletters at the beginning of the year or send notes home to parents or something? Maybe they could put a.
Shortly before school starts, they send home that,
A mailing?
yeah, the newsletter. What is it called?
Community
Connections,
Oh,
yeah.
community
Yeah.
connection.
Mhm.
Do they have ads in there?
No, but they would do, I'm sure they would.
They would insert a poster. We just would need to know how soon to get it to them.
Mhm.
How many do they do a year?
Oh, two.
Two, yeah, okay.
We just got one, we get
Right.
one when school starts.
So sometime in August?
Yeah, we'd have to check with them, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
So, moving on, page 2, we talk about day 1, what the open house would look like. It's stations highlighting an issue or a geographic summary with related maps and opportunities for feedback. At some point during the evening, maybe when the most people are milling around, it would be great to have a community official, whether it's, the mayor, is there a mayor in Old Town? A chair. Or the city manager, just welcome people and talk about, say a few words about the comprehensive plan and the importance of it. And that's it. So, and then people are left to do their own thing. We could make the survey available then also, so people are responding to it then and there. And so the question is, who do you think is the best person, and who is going to be responsible for making sure that that person could be here? We'll have to work out those details. And approximately what time? If we're starting at 5 and we're going till 8, sometime maybe between 6 and 6:30 is, in my experience, that's when most people are going to be in the room. So that's a good time to have that kind of introductory remark made. So on day 2 in the morning and in the afternoon, we would set up conversations with different opinion leaders in the community, about an hour and a half long each. And this would be done with 4, 5, 6 people at a time. And depending upon, for example, if we wanted to choose the first meeting, let's say at 9 o'clock on the first day, we'd have those people who are most interested in economic development in the city. We'd bring them all in and we'd have conversation talking about, where do you think the city ought to be going? And what do you think is the most important challenge to address in terms of economic development? At another meeting, we might be talking with the people who are interested in recreational opportunities, or another one might be housing. And so we want to be thinking about who the people are that we want to bring in. We're set up to do 6 of these, 4 on day 1 and 2 on day 2. But if there aren't 6 groups, we can do fewer. So, that'll be something that we'll have to be clear on well before our September meeting. So to make sure that we get their invitations out and they're lined up to be here.
Do you
Okay.
want that
Do that.
by the June meeting.
I think by the June meeting, if we could have names of who, and we've already begun that list, which I have, you know, we worked on last time and the first time as well. So we can build off of that.
But you mean day 2 and day 3 mornings, you'd be doing that, correct?
Day 2, morning and afternoon,
And day 3?
and day 3, morning only.
Okay.
And then day 3 in the afternoon, we're skipping ahead here, but
Because I was confused, you said something about 1 and 2, because we're only doing an evening meeting on the first day.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then on day 2, we're doing up to 4 conversations with opinion leaders in the community. And then in the evening, we'll do another open house.
You may get people from that first meeting that you want to
Correct.
invite.
That's correct. And then on day 3, we're set up to do a couple of these conversations in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we're pulling together all that we've collected and putting together our presentation to make that night. So we're going to need the afternoon to pull that stuff together. And so some of the questions, they're very similar for each of the days and each of the blocks of time. Who do you want involved? What time do we start? Do you want to be part of those meetings? You don't have to be part of any of them, but it would be nice if you could come to 1 or 2 of them, whether they're the daytime meetings or the evening meetings, because I think people would like to know who the committee members are. So there's that little bug again.
And I swear she had water when we ate across the street.
I did. I know, it was just water. So that's the gist of what happens. On the last page here, we're suggesting some additional ideas that are not in our scope, not in our budget, but it may be something that in your different positions or who you all know in the community might be something that, you'd be interested in doing. So conducting an Old Town's Favorite Places photo contest. I mean, that would be kind of fun. We could display the photos that night. We maybe even could use some of the photos in the comprehensive plan. Someone might be interested in making a calendar out of these photos. So that's one idea. Another, again, somebody already brought up, Barry already brought up the school department. We thought about maybe an art or an essay competition about what's Old Town going to be like in 20 years or in 50 years, and let kids use their imaginations about what that would be like. And again, we could use those materials in the comprehensive plan in the end. So those are 2 ideas. The third is maybe having a friend of the newspaper be interested in putting some kind of an insert in the newspaper that explains where we're at and tries to get people not only engaged by coming to these meetings, but engaged in making sure they know that there's a website, there's a Facebook page, there's an opportunity for them to be involved. So those are 3 ideas that we will not, as a consultant team, take responsibility for, but it may be something that you as committee members would be interested in doing. So think about that. So that's it. So why don't you kind of mull this over in the next few weeks, and we can circle back around to this at the end of June, assuming that you would be available to come to another meeting in June. Definitely not July or August. We'll give you a break on the summer. Okay?
Do we want to set a date right now, so that we know?
We can. We've been meeting the last Thursday, so the 25th is the last Thursday of June. Does that work for people?
I think 25th sounds great.
I won't be here, but as Linda said, I'm only one person, so don't, do it around me.
Are you gone that week, or?
I'm gone the first part of the week, but I'll be back by Thursday.
But that's okay. I mean, I just can't be to that one.
I'm pretty flexible, so whatever you guys choose.
Everybody else can.
Sounds like 25th.
Mhm.
Yep.
We'll stick
25th.
with a month. Okay, we'll do the 25th. All right. Before we get to committee assignments, just an update on the webpage and the Facebook page. The webpage is ready
Yeah, it looks
to
great.
go. As I found a typo. My name is spelled wrong
Okay.
on it.
Yeah, I saw that.
K and not cat. A common error. So we'll fix that. In fact, what I can do tomorrow is send you the link to the draft webpage so you can see it
Nice.
before it goes out. It's very basic, but it has all the pertinent information on it, and it's set up so that we can add information to it. We'll be adding the agendas, the meeting notes, any newsworthy articles like the kayak and canoe article that was coming out. So, you know, it's pretty good. There is one thing that I need to ask you about. Your names are on it as the committee members, but there is no contact information. So if anybody wanted to contact you to talk with you, I don't know whether you want contact information put on there. So I need to ask that. I need to ask also, I think your name and my name are on there for email contact for anybody in the community who can't reach, you know, who want to connect in some way. But I guess that's really what I need to know from you all. Do you want any contact information about you, so that if people are interested in talking with you personally as opposed to a staff person or you know, somebody from away, they can do that.
The meetings are open, aren't they, to the public?
They are open. We're on
So they can
television.
come, so.
Our information's out there anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and David would know how to get in touch with any of us if they
Yeah.
really wanted to, so.
So I can,
Yeah, if they want to contact either you or I, we can contact them and then.
okay. So we'll do it that way. We'll keep it simple and just put you and I on that page, and just
Good.
indicate that if they want to talk to the committee members, they can, if they already know how to contact them, obviously go ahead, but, okay.
Well, if there's a Facebook page, you're gonna be getting feedback.
Exactly.
Hopefully,
Yes,
from
yes,
Mhm.
that too.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I'll send out link
How
tomorrow.
are you going to advertise the website? How are people going to know it's there? Is it going to be linked to the town page?
It
or-
is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's linked to the town page, so you'll open up the town page and there'll be a banner that says Old Town Comprehensive Plan Update, click here. And then it'll take you to Wright Pierce's home site, which is where the downtown plan is also being hosted. And then you're just gonna see that page. You're not gonna see any of Wright Pierce's other stuff. You're just gonna see Old Town Comprehensive Plan based information. And there'll be a link on that page to the Old Town Comprehensive Plan that is on the books today.
Today.
So people can have that full circle.
And we can put the links to all of that on like the footer of the surveys and all of that business.
Absolutely, we can do that. We can also put the website on the Facebook page.
Mhm.
So those are all things. And I was waiting for the Facebook page until we were good on the website. And then that can be really easy. Is there somebody on the committee who would like to be the co-administrator of the Facebook page with me?
I would love to help.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
So I'll add you as that. That way, if I'm not around and we need to make a change
Yeah,
or,
we'll come up with a little content
I don't
plan.
even
something
Perfect.
that they feel
It's
like
such a
kinda
time
automated.
hog. I
perfect.
get these messages all the time.
Oh,
Okay.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Maybe it's a stupid one, well, a silly one, not stupid, but silly. When you're doing your surveys, and you're gonna do them online, are we gonna do them with SurveyMonkey? Is that what we're planning?
Yeah.
Okay, now, is there a way that you don't get 10 from me, 5 from, I mean, is there a way to do that so that if,
Yes, there's an IP address that is associated with each entry. And so if there's a repeated IP address, we know that one person is responding more than once.
well, you could go to different computers in different places, but.
Well,
a little more
that's
difficult.
true.
That's a
Yeah.
little more difficult.
If you're
I'm
gonna put
just
that
saying,
much
yeah,
effort into it, it might be
yeah,
worth
okay.
your input.
Yeah.
Put a little tag on there saying, you know, we're looking
Please.
for one
Yeah.
response per person. And
Sure.
kind of trust
Yep.
their honesty on that. I mean, of all the things to scam, I don't see why anybody would want to load that so much, but yeah, I think just, because IP address even could be husband and wife using the same
Of
computer
course.
at home, you would want two people
Yeah, that's
Right.
to do
Yep.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
And the thing about this type of survey is it's not a statistically valid survey. What it's doing is it's giving you a feel. It's giving you a sense. If we wanted to do a statistically valid survey, you know, we'd be doing the mail, which is very expensive, or we'd be doing telephone calls, which is even more expensive. So,
A
And
lot
a-
of people that will
and
not do a
annoying.
survey,
right.
do a
Eh,
survey on the phone.
right.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
all right.
I think we'll do great if we incorporate things like Riverfest and can, you know, incorporate ways to even do things like verbally, you know, just stop people and maybe ask them, you
Right.
know, a few questions, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, anytime you're, you know, out and about and you see if there's events happening this summer
Find a
and we
way to
want to
get
put
involved, yeah.
the Facebook page and the website out there as a way to get people,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to draw them to the website too soon before there's anything
Something.
important. I mean, right now, we're putting agendas and meeting notes, and it's not very exciting because, you know, so we just have to be careful of that, and we do need a content plan.
I think we can, yeah, I think that once we get just a
Yeah.
little bit closer, that'll be kind of fun and
Yeah.
engaging.
Yeah. All right. Good. I'm going to keep rolling here. I have not done any additional analysis of information, but I did get a link from the state planning office, or what used to be the state planning office, their data package, which is voluminous. So it's another set of information from the state agencies who collect natural resource information, traffic information, demographic information of all sorts. So that'll be information base that I can draw from. The last but not least on that I want to talk with you about tonight is last time we were here, Ted said, well, we're volunteers and we're on the committee and we want to help. So I came up with a list.
Yeah.
There you go, Ted.
Items
Perfect.
that we can walk through.
There you
Here,
go.
Make sure Ted has
Just,
one of these.
yeah,
notes,
check
so-
off his name on it.
Yeah.
If
I
you
think
want,
we-
I can put all that material in his mailbox in the office.
Perfect.
Go get it tomorrow
Yes.
morning.
Oh,
That's
boy.
great. So I think we've pretty much already talked about the first one. You know, someone to receive emails from the public other than the code officer or consultant that may not be reasonable. What I'm thinking of there is, let's say somebody gets on the website and they have a question or a comment that isn't covered by something on the website. You know, Dave is wearing many hats, so it's so he may not find it in his email box for a while. I don't think it's right for city business to come to the consultant, because if I lose it,
Mhm.
and, you know, sometimes that happens. So I'm just wondering whether it makes sense to have another person that can receive official business types of emails about the comprehensive plan. And maybe we don't, you know, put it on until later, until we know that there's comment coming in. But think about that. I think it would be helpful to have somebody, a city resident. So that's the first one. The second one, Facebook, I think Karen has already volunteered for that. The third one, this is, any of you who are on Facebook, If you see a post about the Old Town Comprehensive Plan come up, I want you to like
It's
it,
incredibly
and I want you to
important.
share it.
It's incredibly important because Facebook, to reach folks, to get your word out there, they will, how many times it's liked and shared is extremely important to how many other people will see it.
Exactly.
In so many ways. In
Yeah.
so many ways.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's really important.
So that's an easy one. How many of you here do use Facebook?
That's enough. That's awesome.
That's great. That's great. And it's
My
and-
wife will do it enough for all of us. so.
Exactly.
Yay.
And share it once and twice and three
Comment, say
times.
things.
My daughter, yeah.
Commenting is
They're
actually
all-
the most important.
Yep.
Exactly. The third one, the fourth one, we've talked about surveys already and how for those who will not use the computer, we may need some help in getting the word out to the senior citizens, or maybe that's something through the schools also. I'm sorry?
I can help with some of that. so.
All right, great.
What are we thinking, like Marsh Island Apartments and?
You guys would have to identify them for me. I don't, I'm new to the area, so I
River
don't really know
House.
which ones they are, but
I think if you took them to the housing authority, they would get them, of course, the River House would be different.
Take them to River House Housing Authority, and they pick up Marsh Island and then Perkins Ave and.
Yeah, and the-
Perkins, I don't
you
think
know, and
he'll
ask
move
them
around
if
too
they
much.
want somebody to come in personally and,
I know our discussion in the car, but I'm not so big on tallying them, but I'll make sure they get delivered.
Okay. But we would, once we get them back in their paper,
I can help
they
with
need
all
to
of
be
that
entered into
because-
Survey
yeah,
Monkey.
yeah.
All right, so
I'm cool with that.
Karen and I will
See,
work
now
on
she's gonna
that.
use the same IP address to enter all those duplicate
I
surveys.
could come into the office.
Yeah.
I work by my, self-employed, so I could come into the town and sit down.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, you and I
All right.
work on that together.
Dave, do you have
That's
funds
great.
so that you could hire like University of Maine work-study kids?
Well, I have
Oh, but
an
I mean,
idea
it's
though.
just a
Well,
match.
Or could they?
It's budget time,
I
buddy.
have an idea related to that. I think
I
about
might.
the high school and going a level deeper and getting like, they teach a government class there, like a
Yes.
civics class there, and asking that teacher to nominate a student to participate in the process. And then we get that person to, write articles to the school newsletter and stuff like that. We're working them from the inside, see?
Mhm.
That's how I.
Do you think there's accessibility?
I
Can
don't
we
know.
get into the schools to do that? I'm
I
looking
think
at
that,
a-
I think it would be important to get at least the seniors to fill out a survey, because,
That's a great idea.
that's important,
the
what
future.
they'd like to see,
Because they're
because,
the ones that may.
Because
Yeah.
ask the government
Wanna come back
teacher
and
what
Right,
they
mhm.
think is a good way for, maybe they would see some sort of project.
Right.
Maybe that, they would tell us what's the best way to get their class involved or an
Mhm.
individual
Mhm.
involved, somebody.
At the end of the year, it's too bad the survey wasn't available, because
I know.
right now, teachers are doing various things, and they might need something to fill in. They might have an opportunity, or right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's what I was
I was
thinking.
thinking of going to the elementary school and seeing if they would draw some pictures and stuff.
Uh-huh.
at the
That's
end.
lovely.
That would be
Perfect.
great.
That's lovely.
Perfect.
That'd be
I
great.
don't mind going to the high school.
I think it would be a great, I would ask them, tell them this is what's going on in the city and how would they see the school or a student or students being involved, and let them answer that question. But I feel it would be a richer engagement than.
Mm-hmm. Then dictating to them what it is we
Yeah.
want them to do. Great. I mean, however you want to handle it,
Right,
if
right.
you want to do that, if you want to make the contact, that would be wonderful. Just let us know so we know what to expect. And,
But I'll do it next week.
It's
yeah.
a great way to get parents engaged. If you've got their kids' artwork on the wall, the parents will come. That
Yeah.
is a
yeah, that's
Right.
a
no-brainer.
little one.
Right. It's true. Okay,
So,
shall we keep going?
Mm-hmm.
The next item is the hot topics. I'm calling them the hot topics, but it was that list of issues, important issues that we've been building on the last few weeks. And I don't even think I brought a copy of it with me tonight, but, it had the different places in the community that we needed to pay attention to. Because of my unfamiliarity with the city, it would be helpful to have somebody draft up a paragraph, a couple of sentences about each of these items so that it registers in my mind a little bit more easily, and I know how to then tackle it. They were on all different topics. If I emailed that out to you again, would you look at it and say, I'll do this one, somebody else will do that one, you know, divide it up and let me know which ones you want to do? That would be great. And if we could get those back by the end of June at our next meeting, that would be great. Now, the next one, this is, I don't know if September is a good deadline for that. I have to think about that a little bit more. But the idea is to, if there's interest on the part of any committee member, to dig into an issue a little bit and talk about what you know about it, what your opinion is about it, as a way of getting the public interested and involved in this planning process. So, you know, it might be that you're worried about Stillwater Avenue, and you want to talk about that and identify what the issues are from your mind and see how many other people feel about it. It might not be something that we can do between now and September until we have a little bit more meat on the bones, till we know more about what the issues are. But be thinking about that, because I think especially when it comes time to adopting the plan, it'd be good to really make sure that we make extra efforts to get people engaged in understanding what's in the plan, because what often happens is people are asleep at the wheel until all of a sudden the plan is in front of the city council and it's ready to be adopted and all this work has gone into it, and now you've got all this controversy that if you had known about it earlier, you could have addressed it. So think about that one.
Where do these issue papers go? I'm sorry.
We put them on the website, we put them on the Facebook page, or at least tell people on the Facebook page, go to the website, because Alan has a lot of good stuff to say about this particular issue. We could do, you know, press releases about it. It's, you know, anybody that has a newsletter, we could put it in that.
Or if we had that newspaper insert.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I think I'm so new to this community, but everything I've sent to the Penobscot Times, he's published,
Yeah,
so,
they've been good.
everything,
That's great.
yeah.
Okay, creating posters to promote events. You know, we'll probably do the body of those posters. We'll put the pertinent information in. But if somebody wants to embellish them and make them really exciting and all of that, that would be great. Is that okay? Thank you, Karen. And then we could use anybody's help to distribute them and hang them around town. That's pretty easy. We've already talked about
Yeah,
that. Participating in the 2.5-day event, we talked about that too a little bit, you know, coming to at least one of the evening meetings, maybe participating in one of the conversations the next day. Helping manage the logistics for the 2.5-day, that's probably a little bit heftier, because it's things like, you know, we need, in fact, I did put it on the back, okay, on the back of that page. We need a press release for it. We're gonna need food and maybe sponsors. We've got the meeting location. Dave's already handling that piece of it. We're gonna need chairs for the third night. We'll need name badges. I probably can come up with name badges. Sign-in sheets, I can have them there. It's a question of making sure when people walk in the door, here's a name tag, here's a sign-in
Yep.
sheet, please put your contact information. Having tables and booths and we don't know yet how many, you know, half a dozen, 6 to 8 tables.
Booths, probably we can accommodate. Tables, no problem.
Okay, and when I call them booths, but tables would be plenty. We'll need probably a bunch of easels to help hang maps on. I've got a couple of consultants have, that I'm working with have a couple, whatever the city has, if we could compile all those. And then
I've got
somebody
something that might be
organizing the
helpful.
speaker.
I've got an access to, through the Friends of Sun Caves, we have a projector, a smart projector, and a 6-foot screen.
I have a projector,
Yeah.
but if I don't have to lug it up here, that makes it
yeah.
easy.
So, like,
A
you could put-
screen,
yeah, I mean,
fabulous.
it's kind of
Think
just
so, they
passively
should.
scrolling things somewhere or however.
Yep, yep.
They might have one at the library.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Say they might have one at the
They
library.
might
Yeah,
even
she's
have
got quite
large
a setup
screen
up there.
TV that
Can you
project.
check?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Find
You could
out
have the
what they
Facebook page
have.
on there. You could have the survey on there. You could
Yep.
have all kinds of crazy things happening.
You can put the,
You could have, if anybody
The
has
photos.
laptops to share, we could bring them and have them right there for the survey to do online.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, as we get closer, we'll have to nail this down, but it's, the big thing, I think, is to find refreshments. That's probably the
Oh.
biggest thing.
I'll make sure.
Thanks, Dave. Managing logistics for the November workshop, that's a one evening. We're gonna have, that night, we'll have the vision, which will be in draft form at the September meeting. We'll also have the goals and the objectives and some of the bigger ticket things to present to the whole community, because then we'll be able to fill in the blanks for the rest of the time until we present it as a draft, a complete draft.
So you feel that by November, that's when the survey results will be completed and
Oh,
analyzed?
yeah. I think if we release the survey, say early September, we shouldn't go any later than mid-October.
Forward to have it done.
Yeah, yeah. And, we'll know by the end of September, most people will say, there won't be too many. There'll be a few stragglers, but not too many. And sometimes committee members are involved in making presentations, in helping to present the information. We would give you the script, we would give you the tools, but just to be the voice, be the face of Old Town. So think about that. Sometimes Kiwanis Club and Rotary are looking for speakers and they want to know what's going on. So, that's another venue to present information about the plan. So those are all the kind of, committee member tasks. But then we've got some data collection tasks that we need. We've got summarizing building permit activity. And this is up to you how much you want to get, how much detail you want to provide here. In the past, in the comprehensive plan that you have, there's a fair amount of, the 10 years worth of building permit activity and what happened in the 10 years of the life of that plan, but it's been 20 years now. And I think it would be interesting to know the number of residential permits and where. So is there an area of the community that seems to be more attractive to residential development than another? And is there reason to look at the zoning in that area to make it easier or make it harder or whatever? So that's one area of building permits activity. The other area is commercial. I have all the printouts. Dave gave me every single building permit that has been issued in the past 20 years. But it's not in a way that is easily tabulated. You have to look at each one and say, oh yes, this was a garage. This was a conversion to an apartment. And so it's labor intensive
There's pages.
to go through it. So the question is that something that this committee wants to get into, or is there an individual who's interested in that kind of data that would be interested in mining it and pulling it out?
I think we'd be better off to look at where we would envision the development happening in the future.
To
not
go.
Where it's been. Because where it's been is pretty much limited to infrastructure, and where it's going, infrastructure is the issue, I think, and we should try to figure out where that is and move the infrastructure to be ready for that.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, anybody else?
Yeah, 'cause because Old Town doesn't have a whole lot of places to.
No, we're pretty limited. to where it's
Pretty
gonna go.
limited as
It
far as.
is.
And I think another way that we can accomplish it without it being so labor intensive is maybe at the June meeting, I bring in a big map. And we circle on the map the places that we know where things have happened. And do it from a, personal knowledge perspective instead of, so that we talk about it in a soft way in the plan. This is not based upon, statistical information, but it is where the committee members who know the community.
Why do we want to do that? I have to agree with David. As far as.
Because-
Well, I think it's important to have a base to say, okay, here's where things have been happening. And it's good or it's not good.
Because I think you have to back up what the vision was in the 95 comp plan, that's where we wanted our growth areas.
Right.
You have to show that was accomplished and then set your goals for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's
It might be
typically-
surprising what you find. That's what I would say. But I don't know if I need to know if there's a garage built.
Exactly.
I'm
I don't
wondering if
either.
it could be simple, like a house
Exactly.
built. Is it a multi-family or a single family?
Well, I think we
And
can do that around the table here next month. There's only 2 or 3 areas in
Yeah,
town where it's
mhm.
happening.
That's right.
Yeah, really.
That's right.
And if you're comfortable with that, that's fine with me. So let's try it that way, because the data that Dave gave me, and I went through, started to highlight the houses, the businesses, the additions to the businesses. I skipped the garages and I skipped, the little outbuildings, because I don't really care about those. But,
It's still,
oh my God,
1,000? How many are there?
oh,
new residential
new residential,
in 20 years. 100, 200?
200, probably. There was a boom going on from 95 until probably 2005. There was quite a bit going on.
so what you do is you
What
start
areas
with
of town?
2014
Poplar?
or 15, and you go backwards until you pass out. I mean, really, your brain explodes and
There's quite a bit.
this is, if you get 5 years, hey, you made it 5 years. you
Yeah.
know? I mean, 5 years is crap.
That's right, that's right,
I mean, if it's 200
yeah,
residential, though.
right.
Building.
And a lot fewer commercial,
But you have to go through all the pages of
Exactly.
other stuff that's irrelevant.
exactly.
How many houses?
And
handwriting's
pull out, and
okay.
you go blind after a while, and you miss
Yeah.
things.
Is there a workers' comp at the end?
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, it just can't be
Okay.
reported out in a summary form.
Well, one quick question really for Dave, is it beneficial for the city in the long run to have a database created for that kind of information that just gets maintained going forward, so that the city doesn't have to go through that again? I mean, if it's just an investment of getting it done, for more than just this one purpose, then it would be
Right.
worth it, right?
Maybe that would be part of the plan, is that we recommend that that this become digitized.
Because you have a database now
Yes.
that you enter building permit information into, but it stops there. There's,
The level of breaking it down by map and lot or
It's
street
re-
location or.
its reporting
type.
ability is limited,
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's,
so. All right, well, we'll try it with a map next time. The other thing I thought that would be helpful to us is there are 3 or 4 state and local transportation studies that have been published since 1995 that have some effect on Old Town. One is the Main State Rail Plan. I don't know if it includes anything about the rail in this area. There's a 2002 Airport Master Plan. For some reason, I'm thinking that was updated.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of activity at the airport right now.
so I gotta get the more current one for that. Then in 2003, the Stillwater Avenue Center Street Corridor Study was done. And there's some, I'm sure, recommendations in there that may have been followed, may have not been followed, but it'd be good to get a paragraph or two that says, what are the recommendations? Again, in looking at these studies, I'm not looking for an in-depth summary. I'm just saying it started here, it ended there, they looked at these questions, and these are the recommendations.
Was that something you can send out, we just have to review and
Yeah.
summarize?
Yep, I have the documents. Same thing with I guess there was a traffic study last year for intersections in Old Town and Milford.
It's downtown.
And that
Phil's
stool
talking
company
about, I think.
Just did. And that one's got a lot of numbers in it, a lot of diagrams, intersection diagrams. So I didn't get to, when I scanned it, I didn't get to see whether there's a page that says, yep, this one's a problem, that one's a problem. We just need to pull those out so we can make sure they're captured in the plan. One of the things that the state likes to see is a compilation of revenues and expenses. And since this hasn't been done in 20 years, that's another lot of data to go through. So I was talking to Travis about that today, and maybe what we do is, because, again, it's voluminous to go through 20 years worth of, or even 10 years worth of annual reports, is that we start with 2014. And we set, the template, create it for 2014. And then each year, the city can build on it and summarize it in that format, so that in 5 years from now, when you're doing the comprehensive plan again, it's much easier to build off of that. So I think that's how we're going to handle this piece, because it's so much information. And I do think the city, we talked about inventory of municipal facilities. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. There's a lot of really good information in the city assessor's database about public facilities. So I think we're going to be in good shape there. And then the other thing I thought might be helpful, if you're interested, is if we took the existing comprehensive plan, which is now online as a PDF, and we broke it up into chapters, and everybody took a chapter and put it in Word. I'm sorry?
How many pages is it?
It's quite a few.
I was just gonna say, it's pretty, it's comprehensive.
Yeah, it's
How many?
probably, I'm going to guess it's a couple hundred pages.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
software solution that will get that to
That's
like
true.
98% accuracy, and then it just takes everybody.
That
doing
is
the
true.
chapter and proofing.
Reviewing.
And
yeah.
proofreading it, yeah. And
Do you want me to look into that?
that would be great. Yeah, if we could get a software solution to that, and it would
that's what's
convert the
gonna show you.
PDF,
And then we can
That
just
was
edit it.
and just make sure, because I know sometimes those
It
software
looks like
pieces,
ifs or
Budget.
ifs, yeah.
exactly, they
Yeah, I
change
had one.
words,
Yeah,
Had one.
change letters and words. Because
Can-
that, to me, would be very helpful to
Going
building the
forward,
plan
yes.
going forward. I can cut and paste information from the prior plan and then just add to it
Yeah.
instead of,
You can't capture it from the PDF?
you can capture it, but it's not often editable. So I
Really?
can take a
That's not-
snapshot.
There's a program that will do that.
Yeah.
There's an Adobe
Yeah.
upgrade, I think that'll get that done.
Yeah.
It might
Okay.
just be a small investment, but I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of
It's
others.
like, it's $19 something a year.
Yeah,
Oh.
yep.
All right.
We'll get that.
And you
we'll get that
just
done.
highlight it and
Yeah.
cut and paste.
And cut and
But
paste.
it's still, there is some
You need to
translation.
read it. There's
You
no
just have to
100%,
read it.
yeah.
Issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But they stick out pretty, the mistakes stick out pretty well.
Yes.
Can-
Okay.
Can we just drop back to
Yes.
the first, your questionnaire?
Yes.
I know there was conversation about worsened, stayed about the same, improved. Is there any suggested language that people would like to put in there? During the time you've lived here, would you say that the living in Old Town has worsened, stayed about the same?
I'd like to sort of go through it word by word, a little bit more
Yeah.
detail for myself.
Okay, that's fine.
Worst, I don't like that word.
But it's in
Yeah.
yes.
I think, yeah.
And the other
a
thing-
word change there would be helpful.
Okay,
And I gotta bring this up because I hate these strongly agrees, somewhat agree, but I understand why you do it. but is neither agree and neither disagree? Isn't that the same
No
thing?
opinion.
No opinion, I mean, could that,
Yes, yes,
Okay,
we
good.
could do that. We
if
could do
that
no
could be,
opinion. That would simplify that, wouldn't it?
yes. Okay, now, do I really neither agree then, or do?
Excellent. Yeah, so, you know, feel free. I've already gotten some of Alan's comments, and you brought some of them up tonight on the
Yeah.
survey, but feel free to email me.
Yeah, that's what I
and
was
will
trying to
come
get at,
up-
if we
Yeah,
can-
I'll come up with something different on
Yeah, I
this
was-
next
I
time.
was coming at it from, my comment to you was,
Sometimes ask people, like, give me 5 words that describe what you like best about something, and give me 5 words that you describe what you don't like about, or that you would improve about something, because it kinda, or 3 things, it kinda makes
Right.
them prioritize.
Right.
And you get kinda like 1-word labels out of stuff, and you can kinda pretty easy to tell whether these are positive words or negative words. I don't know.
And you gotta give them choices, though, right?
Kind of, let me
Because
take a look at the
otherwise
survey
it's
question a
across
little
the
more in
board.
depth. I kinda just glanced on it on Gmail and then said,
Yeah.
oh, we'll look at them more and. like,
Right.
It's very serious.
I was trying to come at it from a positive point of view.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you do to improve, to make Old Town the best
I agree.
city in the state of Maine? So, then you have a list of things and you say, what 3 things do you think you would
That's a
improve?
fabulous approach. I feel like one of the things every day is a day for learning, right? And some of the things I was learning today about writing good, engaging content is, you always want to evoke an emotion with folks, and fear makes us respond one way. Sometimes in advertising, that's great, but what seems to me that what the emotion we would want to engage here would be hope.
Excitement,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
community
yeah,
and building and.
Right, so phrasing it in that way would, I think, increase engagement in the survey.
Right. Because
Yeah.
then we're committed to trying to make it.
Right.
Everybody starts thinking.
And it's more positive.
And
just-
all your decision-making can be around that goal.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
wouldn't you like to live in the best city in the state of Maine?
Yeah,
I
we're
mean-
already one of the top
We
3
didn't get to that
kayak and
last
canoe
one.
places.
That's- and I-
right.
According to the kayak and canoe.
That's
people.
right.
And, you know, I bet you there's lots of things that we do.
I agree. I love Old Town.
There's a lot to get over.
Okay.
No, we didn't get them in.
So that's the formal part. And then it's, now we're at the roundtable discussion. I put in those newspaper articles that were sent to me by committee members. Maybe you can talk about the housing one a little bit more, Alan?
There was an article in the paper about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it said that they were looking for family housing down off of Park Street in Orno. But in that, it also indicated how many housing units had been approved in that area over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the exact information.
Right.
It was in that article.
Right.
Sent to you, so, and that you sent out.
Well,
everybody.
I don't know if I sent it out to everybody, but I put the link here on the agenda so you can find it. But
It's quite surprising. I imagine that really has impacted Old Town in the last few years.
Yeah.
And it may not be well understood how it's impacted
right,
Old Town.
right,
And yet, the University of Maine's the largest employer in the area, and it's got huge numbers of students there. It seems like we should, and all this housing seems to be around that idea of having students and
Right.
student families.
right,
Mhm.
right, yeah. So that may be something you want to think about for the comprehensive plan too, and looking at a policy direction that helps bring some of that here, or, however you want to address it.
Yeah, a friend of mine last night was saying how does Old Town welcome students? Because usually in any college town, the people who live there it's kind of like tourists, you don't really
Right.
like having them around that much. And they were saying, well, why don't you have a welcoming event in September for students, where they might be able to have a bunch of volunteer organizations there that they could sign up and get to know the community and participate in the community and that type of thing. And then I was thinking of your Riverfest, that's about the right time, the end of September. Maybe you could, there could be an angle to that
Mhm.
where you invite students to it.
We have good student participation, university student participation at Riverfest.
I
We
bet.
do. We have several of them volunteer and
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah.
We have the woodsmen participate. The University of Maine Band is always in our parade and performs at the
Yeah.
parade. So we do have, the cheerleaders are always there. We do have a lot of students from Maine up there. And we have a lot that come just to see, just to visit. So, yeah, there are.
Something going on.
It's an excellent opportunity. It's a good community event.
It is, and,
Mhm.
yeah, and, oh, they love it. They want to come back each year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's festival flavor. That's good. Anything else that has come up in the past month that you think we ought to either know about or be thinking about? Okay. Well, that's all I have for you tonight.
Tomorrow, could you send me a link with everybody's either phone numbers, and that way I can get with Karen when we start working on some of this stuff?
Yes.
Could you send that back to me? Email it
Yes.
to me.
Committee phone numbers?
Yes.
Or,
Yes, committee phone number.
okay,
Here's the sign-in sheet as well.
yeah.
And just the contact information, that way we can all work together.
Yeah, I have that list.
Thank you.
That, motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second.
Yes.
So we'll see everybody on June 25th?
Great.
Karen? Karen?
Talk here.
Karen, could I see you before you go for a minute?
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
What is that? Okay.
Okay.
Have a copy of that, what you showed me earlier that you wanted.
I know, that's funny, I
Hey,
missed
can I get
it
a copy of
until
what you
today.
want?
Oh, I don't really know that they were actually in there, but I will look. I think they just had an ad.
Okay.
But I will, no, it's in my other notebook. But I did,
There's so many different spellings.
Right.